When you own your role, no one ever has to step in and do things for you that you should have done, and it just makes things go a lot smoother.
Hi, and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. Today I have a special guest. It's Kenny Duford, and he is a trainer on our team, and he happens to be my son as well, and he's also in the loan business. He is a loan partner, and he does the loan consultation. So welcome, Kenny. I'm
Thanks.
glad you're here with us.
Glad to be here.
So tell everyone who's listening what you do on a daily basis in your job.
So I basically do the job that a loan officer would do if a loan officer was taking the consultation. So from the very first time, I'm the one that gets the lead. I reach out to the client for the first time. I set up the loan consultation. I get all of their information, take the 1003, run credit, run AUS, get income documentation, make sure they're qualified and that they're good to go. When they are good to go, I put together their loan options. I structure the loan. I put together their rate options. I make the rate presentation for them. I go over and discuss their rate options and loan options with them. And then I issue the pre-approval letter. And at that point, they're pre-approved, and I'm making pre-approved looking calls every Thursday, working with the agents to help these guys find a home. And then at that point, once they go under contract and actually, they're ready to buy the home, we've got a signed contract, hand it over to the next person on my team. Although I would still oversee the loan at a high level, just like a loan officer would. So if for some reason my loan partner or processor is not able to get documentation, or if there's a problem on the loan, I'm the one that steps in. So essentially what I do is I take the loan officer out of the equation. They can solely focus on marketing and building the team while I make sure that the loans are going smoothly.
Awesome. And that's working out well for you and for your loan officer, Spencer.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wasn't you just on the podcast a couple weeks ago?
He was. He
Yeah.
was on the podcast just recently. So I thought it would be a good follow-up to have you come on and tell us what you do and how it helps him. So how do you think it helps a loan officer to have someone in your position, a mortgage expert, a person that does the loan consultations?
I think loan officers, you guys have done such a good job of building. If you're listening to this, you're probably a pretty good loan officer who has a good business that you've worked really, really hard to build up. You've cultivated relationships with real estate agents, with clients, and you really care about those relationships, right? So it's really important that those relationships are maintained. So one of the hardest things for a loan officer to do is to kind of let go of some control and let somebody else be the one talking to the clients and selling kind of like on your behalf. But the good thing about having somebody like me who's good at what they do is that Spencer doesn't have to worry about whether or not the people are being taken care of the way he wants them to. I think that, if you hire the wrong person in this position, then obviously you would have to worry. But if you have the right person and you have this position, you can go out and sell and build the business worry-free. I think what holds a lot of people back is they go out and they try to sell, but as soon as one small hiccup pops up on a loan, they're back in the loans and all the marketing activities stop. And that's why you have the roller coaster of, you get a lot of business because you did your marketing activities. You got to focus on the business and all the problems that come with it. The small little hiccups that come throughout the loan process. You focus all your time and energy on those. Marketing activities come to a halt. Business comes to a halt. Then you spend all your time on marketing activities again. It's just a roller coaster. So a person like me ideally is going to stop that roller coaster from ever happening.
So one of the questions that comes up a lot with loan officers as I'm talking with them is, how do I find that person that doesn't want to go out and get the business? A lot of people say, I don't think that person exists. Like, why would they not want to, make the money that a loan officer makes? Why would they not want to be on commission? Because they feel like they can handle it. So why would someone else not want to do that? So maybe you could answer that for us.
Yeah, I think it just comes to different personality profiles. I mean, the disc profile assessment, whatever it's called, is the most important thing in determining whether or not someone would be somebody that would want to go out and get more business or not. Like for me, I have no desire to go out and make it rain. I love actually doing the loans. I love talking to people. I love taking applications, helping them get qualified. I love that part of the business, but I really, truly do not love having the pressure of going to go out and get business and get realtors to send business. I did that for a while. I wasn't very good at it because it really just made me uncomfortable. I did not enjoy that part of it at all. So I think people like me definitely do exist. I do think that it's a little bit more rare than you would find, a loan officer, just a regular loan officer or like a back end loan partner. It's not easy to find, but they're definitely out there. I've worked with a couple in the past that I know for myself are really, really good. Spencer had one before me that was very, very good. I worked with another loan partner that did the same thing as me on my previous loan team. He was awesome. So they're definitely out there.
Yeah, they are.
A great way to look for them. I mean, bank loan officers. I know we all like to talk about banks and how their loan officers don't know what they're talking about. Frankly, there's a lot of bank loan officers that know what they're talking about, right? They're paid on a salary, and yeah, they may clock out at 5, but they know what they're talking about. They have a lot of experience, and I think that those are a great source of people that could do my position. They love talking to clients. They love doing that actual job of a loan officer, but they don't want the pressure of having to make it rain. They don't want to have to work past 6 o'clock at night or whatever. They don't want to have to work weekends. So there are a lot of, I wouldn't write that position off. Like I said, bank loan officers kind of get a bad rap sometimes because we as commission loan officers always like to kind of talk crap a little bit and thinking that they're almost like lesser than. But there's a lot of good bank loan officers out there that would be really, really good in this position that are already used to being paid a salary and already used to kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing.
So tell us when you went to a broker, because you work for a broker now, and how different was that for you to adjust to that from being with a banker?
It's pretty different. I mean, there's just a lot of little nuances you've got to remember because really as a broker, you're really only going to have a few people that you send loans to. Obviously, we have the ability to send them to whoever, but we have 3 or 4 that we'd ever send loans to. I mean, if we look at our entire pipeline of the last year, we maybe used 5 brokers overall. Most of them went to a couple. So you got to understand how they work. So it's just understanding a lot more. You have to understand how the broker actually works. Whereas if you work for a retail bank, all you have to know is how your bank works, your bank's products, how your underwriters work, how the flow works, how the system works. Whereas if you're a broker, sending one to the loan store might be very, very different than sending one to United Wholesale Mortgage or PennyMac. They have their underwriters work differently. Their turn times are a little different. Their guidelines could be slightly different from each other. So you just got to kind of know the processes and nuances of each individual broker so that there's no hiccups that come up because you forgot something about this broker or delays just because you didn't understand that this broker's turn times are slower than this other broker's turn times, or this broker doesn't look at income as loosely as this other broker. This other broker is going to be really strict with this particular type of income, and you sent a client that's not going to be a good fit for that broker because you didn't understand how their underwriters work. So just little nuances like that. I think that in the retail world, you really don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
So one of the things that we talk about in our WOW training are checklists. Did you create a checklist or anything like that when you first came on, or was that already in place about which lenders you go to for what type of loans? Because there are some loan officers that are going to hire people in your position, and I'm just trying to give them some tips on how they can adjust if they weren't from the broker world.
I didn't get that. It would have been really nice. So if you are going to hire somebody, I would suggest putting something like that together. I'm still learning about the individual brokers that we use and some of their nuances. So if I would have had a document that says, if you have this type of loan, here are your lenders. If you have this type of loan, here are your lenders, and that type of stuff, that would have been great. Would have been
But
really,
it
really
changes
helpful.
a lot, doesn't it?
It depends. I mean, yes, things change, but for example, I mean, now I know if we have a one-time closed construction loan, I know who I'm sending it to. We have about 2 or 3 really good options. One of them is way better than the other 2, so I'm probably sending it there. But, if I have a bank statement loan, I know my 2 or 3 or 4 lenders that I'm going to be looking at. So it's just nice to know, and it saves a lot of time, because the thing about the broker world is it takes a lot of time doing the research, because you have to have individual logins for each of these sites. You have to log into their sites. You have to navigate the site and find all of the information. Sometimes you have to reach out to the account executive if you have questions on these particular programs, and you have to reach out to 2 or 3 different account executives and wait for their responses. So it just takes a little bit longer. I think that if it's really, really streamlined and it's like, hey, for these types of loans, go here. And obviously there's going to be exceptions where, okay, we went to these 2 or 3 lenders that didn't work out with them. Can we find another one? And at that point you have to do that. But it would just be really nice to have it streamlined and in one place. So a good tip if you're looking to hire somebody in this position, to have something like that. I don't think it would take too long to put something like that together if you did a little by little.
Awesome. So if you're interested in something like that, reach out to us, DM me, or reach out to me, at support@loanteamtraining.com, and we'll help you put something like that together, at least a structure for it that you could put together. What else do you think loan officers need to know about the position that you have as the mortgage expert, freeing up the loan officer?
I mean, I think that the job just needs to be really, really defined. You want to make sure that your person knows exactly what's expected of them, and they know what you're doing, you know what they're doing. If it's really, really clear what they're supposed to be doing and what activities they're supposed to be doing, the job typically goes a lot smoother than if there's like a lack of clarity. Like, oh, I thought I would, for example, Tuesday update calls. Who's making those? Who's calling the agents? Who's calling the clients? Is it the loan officer still doing it, or is it your mortgage expert, loan partner like me who's doing it? Just things like that. Pre-approved and looking calls, who's doing those? At what point does the handover happen? So it just needs to be really, really clear. Just having a really, really clearly defined job description, I think, is really, really crucial. And sometimes people just want to hire this position and then they want to like go hands off and cool, I've hired the position, now I can go do all the marketing activities. I do think that once you hire the position, the systems really, really already need to be in place because you've spent time creating them before you hired the person, or you work with that person to create the systems and then you're able to back off a little bit.
Awesome. All right. Are you holding off on training your loan partners, your loan assistants, your team members, and support staff on how to wow your clients? Are they getting that kind of training from you? You probably plan on training them if you get a few extra hours, but when does that happen realistically? And meanwhile, your team is doing the best they can with the information that they have. But this kind of training really doesn't exist anywhere else. When you do the training, that means you're not as responsive as you want to be with your clients, and you're not hitting your closing and income goals as a loan officer. So how much is it costing you to not have a team that's properly trained how to wow clients and referral partners so that they only want to work with you because of the great experience that they're getting? We teach them how to use efficient step-by-step processes and systems that work, how to follow up so nothing falls through the cracks and loans close on time and even early, how to build wonderful relationships with clients, how to wow people so they go, man, that was an amazing experience. The members of his or her team are amazing. They're so on it. How to use scripts and dialogues for winning clients, setting expectations, and communicating with clients so that you can prevent problems down the road. How to handle difficult clients, how to make clients feel appreciated and valued, and how to handle and overcome objections. It might be time to ask for some help. That's why we're here. Loan Team Training has our next live WOW training coming up. We train your team for you so you can focus on closing loans. Check it out at loanteamtraining.com for our next class and see how many 5-star reviews we have from past WOW training participants and their loan officers who sent them at loanteamtrainingreviews.com. Remember, it's an interactive virtual training with live trainers, and we train any of your support staff that is communicating with clients and referral partners. Our sessions are 9 to 11:30 Pacific time. Check us out and sign your loan partner or team member up at loanteamtraining.com. Now I'd like to go into a little bit of a different direction. We're going to talk a little bit about what the WOW training does and how it helps loan officers. The first thing that I want to tell people is who the WOW training is for. So it is for loan partners or loan assistants, marketing assistants, processors who talk to the clients, who communicate with clients, not the ones that don't, because it's not really a good fit for anybody who doesn't communicate with clients at all. Team leads, ops managers, and support staff who talk and communicate with clients and referral partners. Tell us what it is, Kenny. Is it a class that you go to? Is it interactive?
Yeah.
Is it on Zoom?
Yeah, so it's on Zoom, it's live, virtual, and it is interactive. It's not like they come in for a webinar and it's a keynote speech where we're talking the whole time. It's very, very interactive. We go over dialogues and scripting. We do role playing. We ask a lot of questions. We very, very much encourage participation. Before the class even starts, we make sure that everybody has their camera on and that their microphones are working and active. We talk to the loan officers beforehand to make sure that their team members know that that's what's expected of them when they come to the class. So we make it really, really clear early on that this is not going to be a class that they can just sit back and have in the background while they do work. It's very, very clear up front that it's a good investment that your loan officers made for the person to be there, but also it's designed to be interactive. We are going to ask questions. We do encourage participation, and it's just a really good opportunity. Loan partners don't really get the chance to meet up with other loan partners and synergize with other loan partners very often. Loan officers do that a lot with events, mastermind groups, things like that, but loan partners never get the chance to see other loan partners and kind of discuss things with them and see how other people do it.
We've had some really good ideas come up during our WOW training too that we've implemented in the class.
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
that they do that are really, really great things to do. So what we cover, one of the first things that we cover is teamwork and team culture. Tell us a little bit about what we cover during those times.
We talk about really the why the structure is the way it is. So, for example, if there's a loan officer who is only out there getting business, we talk about why the structure is set up that way and why it's important. I think it's important for all team members to know what the loan officer is doing and why they're doing it that way and why the structure is that way. We really go into the why of everything when we're going into, getting documentation. We go into why making a phone call is important versus texting or emailing. But when it comes to teamwork, the idea behind the team freeing up the loan officer to get more loans, supporting the loan officer and encouraging them to not get back in the loan process and to kind of stay out of it, hey, we got this. How encouraging the loan officer to get out of the office is beneficial to the team. Like, for example, when the loan officer can do what they love to do, which is build and nurture relationships, they're going to bring more loans in. The whole team benefits when there are more loans in the door, so everybody wins. So we talk a lot about that, just really giving them the why behind it. It's kind of like a big aha light bulb moment. It really encourages the team members to support their loan officer even more because they understand how important it is for the loan officer to be out of the process.
And sometimes they have to be reminded, don't they?
Right.
So we encourage the loan partners to get or whoever comes to it, to get the permission from the loan officer to remind them that they need to be out of the loan process and own the process. The loan partner needs to own that process so that the loan officer is comfortable leaving it with them because it was their baby, right? This business started out as their baby and now they're kind of giving it up to someone else and they want to make sure that it gets done right. So the best way is to do a great job, and eventually the loan officer will be able to let go more and more.
Right.
Yeah. The next thing is defining their role on the team. The importance of having systems, having a clearly defined job description, which you just spoke of. So we do talk about that. Maybe mention that a little bit about what we cover on there.
I think it's just important so that everybody knows exactly what's to be expected. There's so many tiny, tiny, tiny steps to the loan process that if something's missed, it can cause a day or two delay. And person A thought that person B was doing it and person B thought that person A was doing it, or this documentation wasn't gathered up front because person B, the loan partner, thought that the upfront loan partner should have been handling it, and now it's been submitted to processing without any documentation or with minimal documentation, slows the processor down, bogs the processor down, things just get slowed down in general because the processor is overloaded with having to do everything. So it's just important that everybody knows exactly what's expected of them so that the team can operate really, really, really efficiently.
Yes. And then we also talk about the art of a great team, how delivering amazing wow service to clients is really important, how to deepen relationship with past clients, how to listen for opportunities to connect deeper with clients and agents and referral partners, the mindset and importance and benefit to the team of always looking for opportunities to ask for referrals. And what I like about this is that we're not talking to salespeople here, but like typical salespeople. We're talking to people who don't consider themselves salespeople, right? Did you consider yourself a salesperson when you came and did your job, when you first got into your job?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, you thought you got out of sales, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But what happens is it's important, and you've learned how to ask for referrals because we teach in this WOW training a different way to look at it so that they're not looking at themselves as salespeople. They're looking at themselves as people that help people that help other people. And how do you see that when we're teaching the class? How do you see the light bulb go on for the loan partners or the attendees of the class?
Well, yeah, 95% of people that we ask are going to be uncomfortable. If we ask, hey, are you comfortable asking for business from clients? 95% of people are going to say no, that they're not comfortable with it. There's always the unicorns that are, and that's amazing. That's great. Those people are awesome. But for those that aren't, the main reasons why they're uncomfortable is because they don't want to be pushy. They don't want to be salesy. That's really 95% of the reason why people don't want to ask for business is because that's not how they want to come across to the client. We teach them ways to say it in a really, really conversational way that's not pushy or salesy at all. And typically when we teach them how to say it that way, they're like, oh, that's actually really easy. And we actually have them practice it in the class too, so that they can actually say the words themselves, see how it feels. Then they understand it's really not something that's difficult to do. And we teach them the why behind why they have to ask for referrals and why it's expected for them to ask for referrals. And then we teach them, self-talk to help them overcome their fears about it. All of those things kind of in conjunction really have helped the team members that come to the class go back to their loan teams with no fear in asking for referrals. And, we've seen teams' business soar because their team members are now asking for referrals, whereas before they weren't. Even though their loan officer was telling them, hey, you need to ask for referrals, hey, you need to ask for referrals, hey, you need to ask for referrals. Sometimes the loan officer is telling them this thing all the day long. They come to our class, and then that's when it really clicks.
Yeah. Because it's different when they hear it all the time from their loan officer than when a trainer is teaching them the same thing, right? It's just different. The next thing is we talk about a clearly defined loan process. We have a document that we give them, and it says, what is the task? Who's responsible for the task? What's the time frame that it needs to be? And what's the follow-up date? Those 4 things are really key. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, ideally, if you have somebody coming to the class and you're signing them up for the class, ideally you should have a structure like that in place already that you can kind of plug and play. This is our process. This is what's expected. This is how long it's supposed to take. This is who does it. But if you don't, sometimes people come to our class and they don't have these structures in place, and that's why they send people to the class, because they want help building those structures. So that's just kind of like a basic structure that people can plug and play. They can take that structure and immediately implement it into their business. This is the task. This is what the time frame expectation is. This is who's doing it. This is what the follow-up looks like. And really, when you have a structure and every loan process follows that structure, it kind of takes a lot of the randomness and the unpredictability out of the loan process. Sure, individual bumps are going to come up, but for the most part, a lot of mistakes are stamped out just because you have a process that you're following and doing things the same way every time.
Yes. And checklist is the next thing. It's really important that people utilize checklists. We try to make this entertaining. I mean, as entertaining as you can make it. We tell stories.
Checklist, wow.
It's real exciting, right? But most loan partners and a support staff, they like checklists. But the loan officer doesn't always have checklists done. Some do, and a lot of companies do have checklists in place, but we offer something that we call the nothing to chance checklist. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how we talk about checklists?
I've actually got it
there
printed
you
out
go.
right here. So checklists are crucial because if think about an airplane pilot, right? Airplane pilots follow a very, very, very rigorous checklist. And if that checklist isn't followed to the T and something happens, that somebody could die, right? It's a really, really big deal, and that's why it's such a rigorous checklist that all airline pilots have to follow every single time, no matter how many years they've been flying. They could be flying for 50 years. They still have to follow the exact same checklist as somebody who's been flying for one day. And that's just because they're so crucial, and it's to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Now, if something goes wrong in the loan process, obviously nobody's going to die, but relationships could. Lifelong relationships that you've had with realtors. It could be client relationships that you had for a very long time. Those relationships can be damaged when things go wrong during the loan process. So the checklist is kind of to make sure that nothing like that happens. If every single person on the team is using what we call the nothing to chance checklist, then if something gets through the pre-approval process, it should be as clean as a whistle, right? We should know every single thing about the loan. We should have stamped out any possible things that could go wrong outside of people losing their job or, acts of God or things like that are just unavoidable during the loan process. But how many times in your career have you had a loan that just got denied in underwriting for something that could have been caught sooner?
Yes.
That's really what the nothing to chance checklist is about. If every single person uses it, it is impossible for a loan to get into underwriting that's going to be denied for any normal reason. So
yes.
It's just something that we actually have, and it's printable. It's a PDF that we give everybody that comes to the class. Sometimes people take it, use it as is. Sometimes people take it and add it to something that they've currently have. But it's just available for everybody. And if you follow this, there's going to be no surprises during the loan process.
Yes. And with the class, they get access, the loan officer and the attendee gets access to all of our documents that are editable and can be moved or changed around, whatever it will work for their team. There's no one way to run a loan business. It's individual to the loan officer. So we give them ideas and then they take them back to the loan officer, and then the loan officer can contact us anytime as well. The next thing is this is new for us. We just added this the last couple classes, and it's how to tackle and overcome call reluctance. So talk a little bit about what we cover during that, just a few things that we cover in there.
Yeah. Does anybody on your team not like making phone calls to clients, right? Do your processors kind of hide behind emails and text? Do your loan partners hide behind emails and text and just doesn't seem like they're willing to pick up the phone to get things done? That's call reluctance, right? Most loan teams are going to have some sort of call reluctance. When it comes to the update calls, past database calls, pre-approved and looking calls, those are all calls that a lot of people have call reluctance about. And it's not just those too, but it could be calls to follow up on conditions, calls to explain conditions that are from an underwriter. A lot of people have call reluctance about those. So if your loan team's having a hard time picking up the phone and actually making phone calls, we talk a lot about that and how to overcome it. We talk a lot about the reasons behind it, the psychology behind it, and then how to actually overcome that particular form of call reluctance. So it's been a really, really good section. We've had a lot of good feedback about it because it's not something that's really, really talked about a lot.
Yeah, especially with support staff, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, call reluctance is really common when you're talking about like call centers and sales calls, right? You know what call reluctance is, but support staff, they don't really get that kind of training.
Yeah. And then the importance of owning their role, how being supportive to the loan officer, it really makes a huge difference. And that loan officer can then go get more loans, and they can be out getting more loans because they feel comfortable because the loan partner or the processor or whoever is the team member is owning their role. So how do you own your role if you're a support staff member?
I think a lot of it comes down to accountability when mistakes were made, and it might not be grave mistakes, but it might be like, now we're under the gun to get this loan closed on time and we have to get a same day approval because it took us 4 or 5 days to get documents from the client. Okay, why did it take 4 to 5 days to get documents from a client? What was the follow-up like? Were there phone calls being made? Did we text them? Did we follow up every single day? Did we involve the realtors after day 2 of them not getting us the documents on time? There are little things that can always be done to speed things up. And oftentimes we've found that the support team members that aren't, the cream of the crop are the ones who are saying like, well, yeah, I mean, it's not my fault. The client just didn't get us the documents. Well, if you dive a little deeper, did you call, like I said, did you call them? Did you involve the realtors? Well, no, I just texted and emailed them, but I emailed them 3 times. I texted them twice. We didn't pick up the phone. It's not 100% the client's fault, right? That's owning your role, is owning and having accountability for things. So when you own your role, no one ever has to step in and do things for you that you should have done, and it just makes things go a lot smoother.
Great. And for those that don't have a tracking process throughout the loan, we offer one. We show them the tracking from beginning to end, and there's a document that they could use to track that. And then the other thing is how to make relationship building weekly update calls and ask for referrals without feeling salesy. We talked about that, but we actually teach them how to do the Tuesday update calls, how to do the Wednesday past client calls, how to do the pre-approved and looking calls, and asking for referrals at the end of it, because that's how a loan partner or a team member can really help the loan officer by bringing those in. Do you do that?
The just ask calls?
Mm-hmm.
I call the clients. So my loan officer calls the agents and I call the clients.
Okay, great. That's a great combination.
Yep.
So those are really important. A lot of people send their people to the training for that reason, is because they do want those calls. They want them to learn how to make those calls on their behalf. And even if they don't have to make those calls or that's not part of their job description, they're still going to learn how to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be cross-trained. You never know when they're going to be moved into that role or if they have to cover for somebody.
Yes, that's important. They're going to review winning a client, scripts and dialogues, how to set proper expectations with clients right from the beginning, how to present things properly at the beginning to avoid issues down the road.
Especially when it comes to documentation and stuff like that.
Yes, it's really important. How to keep borrowers loyal with amazing communication. how to communicate, how to really connect with clients. A lot of people are really good. A lot of the people that are in these positions like you, they're really great with clients, but it's nice to be even greater, right? Even learn skills that make you even better with clients, things that you ask them, the way you communicate with them, asking them, why they're buying the house. Maybe they have a fourth bedroom that they're getting because they're planning on having another baby, or their mother-in-law is going to move in with them, or they're getting a pool because they really want their kids to be able to enjoy the big backyard with the pool. If we never talk to them about that stuff during the loan process, we're not really connecting with them. It's a way to connect with them that's very deep. And we've had some really great loan partners really connect with clients, and some examples of those. So how do you do that, Kenny, when you're talking to clients? Do you ask those kinds of questions of them? How do you connect on a deep level?
I think it just comes to, one, understanding the importance of those small little details and actually connecting with them. There's a big difference between like B level service, which is what your average good loan team would give, and like actual A plus wow service that's going to make people feel good and actually enjoy talking to you instead of like, oh my gosh, the loan team's calling in to ask for something else. They're going to have a much better feeling when you call them. Be like, hey, yeah, no, Kenny from Spencer's team is calling. I need to pick this up. And, I make them feel good when I talk to them on the phone. And a lot of it is because, we've connected with them. I actually care about like what's going on in their lives. I talk to them like a human being, can ask questions. Because a lot of times people will say things like, oh, sorry, I didn't get those documents to you. I was at my son's soccer tournament all weekend and time got away from us. Most people will just brush over that. Oh, hey, it's okay. No worries. I know life gets busy. When can you get the documents to us? Things like that. Instead of saying, well, hey, how did your son's soccer tournament go? That's so awesome. Like, did they do well? Right? And you ask questions, and actually those take a minute to chat with people. It really makes a big difference because you're setting yourself apart from everybody else. So really taking the time to connect with people and learning about why that's so important, because a lot of team members just are like, I don't need to do that to do my job. And that's true. You could give B-level service and you could give passable service to your clients without connecting with them on a deeper level. But that's not what we're shooting for, right? We're shooting to really wow people, to make people feel so good that they're going to want to tell people about us. And these are the things that, again, support staff just aren't really ever trained on normally. And so they just don't understand the importance behind it.
Yeah. So those are the things that we cover in the WOW training. Did I leave anything out, Kenny? I mean, I'm sure there's things that we didn't go into every detail of everything, but those are the overview.
Yeah, I mean, we just talk a lot about the why behind everything, and we give them opportunities to practice too. We role play. We take them into breakout rooms, and they actually role play back and forth with each other, and then so they're practicing and they're just seeing how it all works. It's we've had a lot of people say, hey, we've never received training like this. We're so grateful. We've had a lot of great reviews. I mean, if you're curious, just go online and read the reviews about the WOW training. And actually read the reviews. People really have a lot of good positive things to say about the class, and we try really, 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 really hard to make sure that the class is applicable and there's no fluff in the class. There's no content just to put content in the class. Like, everything has a purpose. Not everything is going to be applicable to everybody, because if it's a marketing manager, yeah, they probably don't need to know how to request documentation from borrowers, right? That's not their job. So not everything is going to apply to everybody, but people tend to stay engaged for most of the class, even if they are positions like marketing managers or processors who don't do any upfront work or something like that.
Yeah. So if you're interested in the WOW training, you can have a free strategy session with us. You can go to talktothetrainers.com, or you can email Irene and Kevin at loanteamtraining.com. Either way, you can have a call with us and we'll go over what would be the best fit for you.
And sometimes it's not the class, right? Like, we're honest about it. If your team member is not a good fit for the class, we honestly don't want them to come, just because we want you to get good value out of it. We typically ask questions about exactly what your person does and what's going to be expected of them, what you want them to become, and you got to determine whether or not it's going to be a good fit. And we have different class options too, so sometimes they fall into a different need where this other class may be a better fit for them.
Yes, we have 3 different offerings, and you can find that on loanteamtraining.com. But I wanted to mention, where you go to see our reviews is loanteamtrainingreviews.com. And you'll see all of our 5-star reviews there and a couple of testimonials and different things like that. So you'll see that there. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But we're so grateful that you were here today. Thank you, Kenny, for bringing your expertise here. And thank you for all you do as a trainer. I really appreciate having you as a trainer with us, with you and My husband, Kevin, is also a trainer, and he stays in the background a little bit more unless he's on the class, but he's a pretty good teacher. So we're really grateful that you joined us today on the podcast, and reach out to us if you have any questions. If you got value out of today, could you do me a favor and give us a follow by hitting the plus sign to follow us? That gets more people to see our podcast and it really helps us out. I would sure appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your week.